Shot myself in the head just over a year ago and survived. Feeling better now than ever before. Looking through your history, that's freaking wild. I hope you're not in the Norco and benzos anymore though. Both are downers, and not good for people with a history of depression. GL to you. Nope, all sober now. Just a lurker in those subs, haha. I was watching the first episode of The Midnight Gospel, a fucked up kind of animated podcast by the Adventure Time guy, and Dr. Drew was on it talking about the same killer cocktail. Glad you got yourself sorted out. You may have just saved my life. Need to check something with my doctor. Thank you. Great job, man, and congrats. While on this specific topic, I want to raise awareness about something relevant, be it known already or not. Opiates and benzos used simultaneously kill hundreds of people on a daily basis. This is the same concoction that killed Heath Ledger. Here is a simple article regarding it. Scroll down to combined effects. The reason I bring this up is I myself had a prescription to Xanax in college and managed to amass an impressive quantity at one point, as I normally didn't take them regularly but situationally. Well, I got shoulder surgery about 2 years after graduating and was prescribed Norco for the pain. When I started physical therapy, I found myself getting anxious as I started to cut back on my opiate intake, but at one point rationalized that I felt the combination of the two gave me the perfect amount of relaxation and self-awareness to really push the limit in terms of my range of motion and breaking through scar tissue. One day when driving home from a PT appointment, I flipped on the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew podcast, which I seldom listened to, where Drew emphatically expressed his terror about how unknown/misunderstood this cocktail was. I about shit myself and instead pulled my car over and vomited from sheer terror. I am so fortunate to be alive today. I would frequently go home after my physical therapy and take an epic nap. I am so fortunate to have always awoken from my hallucinative REM state sleep sesh, and I believe God dropped that podcast that day into my lap. Good for you though. I just wanted to share and help spread awareness. It's great to bring awareness of these issues because drug interactions between these agents are very real and can be very serious, but the Heath Ledger's situation was a bit different. It wasn't a combination of an opioid and a benzodiazepine that killed Heath Ledger. Instead, it was a combination of oxycodone, hydrocodone, diazepam, temazepam, alprazolam, and even the sedating first-generation antihistamine doxylamine. There's a difference between a guy with anxiety who has an as-needed prescription for Xanax who gets prescribed 7 days worth of Norco for a broken leg and someone who tragically overdosed on several different agents. These comments got me in my feels. Love good Reddit. Fuck me in the ass, daddy is really a great guy. It's a girl probably. Holy shit, I project my sex on everyone. I'm 5 years sober from alcohol. I have to treat myself as my own employee kinda. For some reason we all give others advice we don't give ourselves, so I split off from the addiction in my mind and basically drill sergeant myself. Me, it's been a while. What if I spent one weekend a year camping and just drank then? Sarg, no you dumb son of a bitch, do you want to die before 40? Me, oh yeah. To understand the human brain you have to picture a bunch of computers from different generations all stacked on top of one another and linked together. Your primitive brain is like one of those old mainframes that would fill an entire room. And it's pretty much the same model many other animals have. A thing of instinct, raw emotion, immediate gratification. Now your frontal cortex, that's pretty unique. That's the human part. That is like some kind of sleek, glowing, crazy quantum computer locked in a sealed room at Google. Capable of breathtaking feats of reason and logic, so powerful it's able to actually achieve sentience. But see, evolution didn't change our old mainframe brain into the Google computer. It just grew the Google computer on top of the old mainframe, like a sort of super smart tumor. It wired them together over millions of years, in a way that enabled us to excel in the jungle, because if we hadn't, none of us would exist today, but created some very weird results in the bargain. A system that did not act in unison with itself, but that was capable of conflict and disagreement with itself. And therein lies the problem. The mainframe still controls a shitload of important systems. Emotions. Autonomous bodily systems. Long-term memory. Instincts. But now the Google system controls a relatively new suite of conscious behaviors. Working memory. Identity. And they both control the lungs, which we always become painfully aware of whenever we accidentally take the lungs of autopilot and then have to have many awkward minutes uncomfortably aware of our breath. The mainframe sends constant signals to the Google system. But the Google system is too advanced for the mainframe to understand. If the mainframe keeps sending drink booze signals to the Google system, and the Google system tries to send back a "this is not the appropriate time of day, please cease those signals" to the mainframe doesn't understand. It doesn't speak that programming language. And this is the truth of the human condition. Your systems are linked, but because evolution doesn't work like an engineer, the systems are not completely compatible. They can work together, but not in a very stable of entirely predictable way. The thing is, the more you understand how this actually works, the more you can exert more influence over the system. For some reason we all give others advice we don't give ourselves, so I split off from the addiction in my mind and basically drill sergeant myself. Because your brain is not one entity. The primitive brain, where the emotions and addiction live, isn't fully integrated with the rational brain. The primitive brain doesn't just listen to instructions from the rational brain that say that those drugs are bad for you. It is helpful to visualize these parts of your brain as distinct personalities. That's really interesting. My drunk self is like a caveman moron, I fight it out all the time with him when I'm trying not to drink. Sarg, no you dumb son of a bitch, do you want to die before 40? I totally heard this in my head as GNY. SGT. Hartman from Full Metal Jacket. I'm going to try your method for some issues myself. Watched my dad die in front of me from drinking at 69. I don't think I've had more than one drink in a 2-year span as a result. Dude. Great job. There's something incredibly difficult about breaking away from old habits and addictions. We want a piece of it around even when we want it gone. Little steps like blocking those subreddits are the tiny steps of making your life better. Take some pride in those steps. You just got further away from your problems than you were yesterday. Great job. Life is a precious gift. I wish my nephew had a second chance. He's 13 and decided his life wasn't worth it anymore and put a belt around his neck. He was on life support for 9 days and he was unplugged yesterday morning. I would take him any way I could just to have him in my life still. Prayers for your life and your future. Edit, thank you for the award, and thank you guys for the kind words. I did not share this in hopes of any attention, I just hope the ops story and some of the comments of what people are going through can help others that may be struggling or know someone who is struggling. Most cases of suicide leave people wondering, why did I see any signs? Or how could I not know this was going to happen? Just hug your loved ones tight, let them know how worthy they are of life. You don't have to see any signs, there never really are. We thought my nephew was getting better, but obviously not. It could happen to anyone, mother, brother, sister, cousin, and even someone you barely know. It doesn't discriminate sex, race, or age. Be that voice of kindness and reason to someone, anyone. If you're struggling yourself, please know you are worthy of life and love. Reach out for help. It doesn't have to be someone you know. Call a church, go to the hospital, call the suicide hotline. Talk to anyone, but please, don't think death is the only option. You are worthy, and you are loved. This is why I hate when people dismiss teenage problems. Thanks for sharing his story, I'll be using it to show the importance of taking everyone's problem seriously no matter the age. I wish you the best. It's also worth mentioning that teens are, in a way, more at risk for suicide than adults by virtue of the fact that their brain is not fully formed to think into the future. Because the prefrontal cortex is the last bit to fully develop in the early to mid-20s, or potentially later if trauma occurred, and this is the section that deals with judgment, rational thinking, future planning, and other executive functions, teen emotions feel very big and very permanent. They don't have the context an adult brain has. They literally don't have the ability to feel that things won't be like this forever like adult brains can. So teen emotions need to be taken seriously rather than invalidated, and we need to recognize that teen brains don't function like our adult ones. Teens also don't feel in control of their situation, perhaps more so than adults, because they can't just change their lives on their own. I've had suicide ideation more as an adult than as a teen, but I recall hating life more as a teen because there was a stronger sense of hopelessness. At least now I know there's still a chance I can do things and sign things in my name, and I don't rely on someone else to be my legal representation. This exactly. Especially if they have a shitty home or school situation. If you're in a workplace where everyone bullies you, you spend all your spare time looking for a new job. When you're at school, you just know you've got years more of being able to do nothing about it. And those years feel even longer because you are young. My mental health improved so much once I moved out and finished school. As soon as my in-laws had custody, they put him in therapy, had him in a group for children from troubled homes, did everything they could to help him. His mother had spent his life until that point abusing him mentally, emotionally, and allowing her friends to physically abuse him. They would go months without power. She would take off and leave him in the care of a woman who was mentally ill for weeks at a time. Took him to her boyfriend's father's house, who is a registered sex offender. She herself and her side of the family make, use, and sell drugs. This poor child has been through and seen things that no one should. We were hoping to be able to help him and try to undo some of what had been done to him. But what little time we had with him wasn't enough to help. Much love to you and your family. Problems that teenagers have are still problems, and teenagers are still humans. The fact they're in a different life phase means that their problems are different, not less important. People who fail to see that humans are humans regardless of their struggles, experiences, age, and so on, have a serious attitude problem. Respect for human life is the starting point's minimum. Teenagers actually have a high rate of completing suicide, but people write them off because they are being dramatic. The statistics are heartbreaking. At 40 years old, having been told I was being dramatic as a teenager still affects me. It has made me second guess myself way more than I would have otherwise. My nephew did this about 6 weeks ago. I've been so fearful about his quality of life moving forward, but every update I get from the family that is allowed to see him gets better each time. He started out with very little brain activity but passed the initial function tests. However, now he can identify the people around him. 4 weeks ago he grasped my aunt's hand, which was the first meaningful signal, other than reflex tests. Then he made eye contact. Now he's saying a few words when the tubes aren't down his throat. Each time my heart feels so much better after we all feared the worst only a short time ago. It's still a long road ahead. They're even talking about him being able to move to a more general purpose room soon instead of the severely locked down ER portions due to COVID. Once there I will maybe finally get to visit him in person, which I want to so badly. I don't know why you personally got to that point, but it gives me so much hope seeing your recovery. Thank you. It really means a lot. I've been pretty low, thankfully not as low as up, but what kept me going simply is one more step. When you think you have run out, just take one more step. Can't get out of bed, just put your feet on the ground and then put one in front of the other. Find some way to treat yourself with the small stuff. For me, it was a Monster and hookah before work. Not healthy, but it helped. I know it sounds ridiculously basic, but after a while, it got easier to do. I didn't have to push myself out of bed. Man, meds have helped me a lot recently. Was pretty low myself for a while there. My friend used the Keith app and told me about it, so I set that up when I was sobbing my ass off one night and just texted with some doctor for $35 and they sent the prescription to my pharmacy. The only shitty thing is, you have to pay $35/mo and check in with them monthly. It's still better than the $1,000/mo I was paying with my shitty employer health plan that covered nothing. Doctor visits were still over $100 every couple months. Weirdly enough, your message looked a lot like something I've written before. I'm not really willing to go into detail on a public forum, but PM me if you want to talk. I'm also suffering from a bit of the no one could possibly understand me complex, and for no good reason. I'm trying to figure out a way out of this mess but not having much luck. Me too. I feel like no one can understand what I am going through. But anyone who reads this, that feels the same way, message me. Maybe we can all find some common ground. Because everyone is different and has different problems, but maybe we can all understand it a little more. No one will ever know what you are going through, but, just maybe, we can find some sort of middle ground that we all understand. Love all of you. When I feel suicidal, I retreat to my bed and stay there. It isn't a great plan, but I've found that if I drop everything else and focus all my energy on just staying in bed and not killing myself, that after a while I'm able to function again. It is a shit existence, but I could never do that to my family. I've done some serious attempts on my life in the past and I know the pain it causes. So I guess my advice is not to hang in there, it is to try and learn how to float along with the current. My uncle was the same until he was about 30, he just needed to focus on surviving, but it's been 25 years of significant family turmoil since the last time he couldn't leave his room, and he's still here with us. He has a wife, cat, and job he loves to do, and he's one of my biggest inspirations of how to be a human being and how to be a human being with anxiety, depression, and keep waking up in the morning, try your hardest every day, and whatever comes of it, and that's okay, and that's good. Honestly man, surviving a self-inflicted gunshot wound is one of my greatest fears. I've attempted suicide once, and I only was able to survive because of a very dedicated wife, the local police force, and the 0.0001% of my mind that wouldn't surrender to my demons. But my attempt was from hanging. I can't even imagine literally pulling the trigger, thinking that my troubles would finally be over, only to wake up in a hospital physically worse off than I was before I took the plunge, so to speak. The shame and embarrassment that I endured after my attempt, and the PTSD that my family, mainly my wife, has incurred as a result is something that I have to live with on the daily. Years after my attempt, people have more or less moved on, but I can always feel their attention directed towards me when the subject of suicide or hanging gets brought up when I'm around, be it in a movie or a distasteful joke. At least they don't treat me like I'm made of glass anymore. But how did you turn it around? How did you go from your attempt, to realizing you had failed, to seeing that failure as a gift and not something bad? I know my time committed to a behavioral health unit helped in my recovery, but my feelings never really left me. They only became subdued by the knowledge that my brain is unhealthy and that there are other things in life that are worth sticking around for. How have you come out of your darkness and found the light at the end of your tunnel, so to speak? As a healthcare worker, thank you so much for sharing this. I work in surgery, and I don't usually get to know people's outcome, so it helps me to see your story and to know that you are thriving. Much love to you. I have heard all the people who survived jumping off the San Fran bridge all regretted it instantly. The last time I tried to kill myself, I thought, why don't I try living first? So glad to see this post. That's how I separated from my eating disorder. There's even a book on it too, which I found rather unhelpful. But the premise was solid. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. Reddit Story Time. For more Reddit stories.